Hi everyone, welcome to the A Life of Education podcast. So today we're here with Allaoua, who is a yoga teacher and an animal flow instructor. So obviously I wanted to bring you into the podcast because I've seen animal flow everywhere, all over Instagram, and it looks so much fun. So we wanted to bring you on board to see what it was about and if you could tell us about it, because it's obviously a new fitness trend that's circulating around.
Yeah, it is. Hi, my name is Allaoua. So as you say, I'm a yoga instructor. I'm a system instructor, which is a Russian martial art, and I'm recently became a certified animal flow instructor here in Dubai. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very impressed, and I'm very happy to see that animal flow is like making its way out of public and through all the social network and. Like people are really finding this as a new interest in terms of fitness and wellness. So yeah, that's it. So what do you want me to?
Yeah, just tell us.
Yeah.
So do you know? So because I see it on Instagram, and I see people doing it, and it looks crazy. It looks abstract, but I can appreciate the movement basis behind it. How you move your joints in different directions, the benefits
Correct.
you're going to get from that neurologically. It's kind of things where I don't see it as it's not going to make me be able to squat more, deadlift more, lift more, but it'll make me move, make me breathe, give me better control. So it's the kind of thing with the podcast. We just want to expose people to as many new ideas that they might not understand. It might be something you see on an Instagram page and you flick by it and I'm sure a lot of people will discount it straight away because it's not what they're used to. So we just want to learn a bit more about it. Like who's it good for? Who should enroll on it?
All right, so let me just introduce the discipline itself. In a nutshell, it's a discipline that has been created by Mike Fitch. It's an idea of returning to a quadrupedic form of work out. So we basically want to use hands and foot, so going back to the ground, either facing the ground more like a beast, either facing the ceiling more like a crab form. So this is two of the basic form. The beast is related maybe to a tiger or any panther. So the way we move, we want to start activating the contralateral strengths of the biomechanical strengths of the body. In other words, we want to relearn how to use the left part of the upper body, who we're going to work with the right part of the upper body. So left shoulder along with the right hip. So the idea is all about core control. All the form are an activated version when we lift the knees away from the ground or the glutes away from the ground. So when we start to flow, until we are not done with the flow, we're not supposed to deactivate. So we're not supposed to drop the knees or drop the glutes, whatever form we are in. So that's for the thing. Now for the form itself and the concept, it's a mix, I would say, or even better, I would say it's an optimization of yoga, Pilates, capoeira. You can even include dance, even street dance. So the idea is to have a free mobility and regain a full mobility of the body, along with something which is very important in fitness, brain coordination. So we want to reactivate some, let's say, mobility or some things that we had, that we born with, and then we unfortunately like forget with time, see, by sitting on the car for a long time or like in the office, right? So technically, you have a couple of forms. Every form has a traveling form, and every form has a variation. So here we go. You start usually in ape.
Is that on all fours?
So the beast, you start
That's
in
all
tabletop.
fours.
Yes, all fours, but then you lift your knees away from the ground. So here's the concept. Basically, we count the, let's say, difficulty or the challenge of the form according to the point of contact with the floor. Less point of contact with the floor you have, more challenging it becomes. So we start, let's say, in beasts, in full, like tabletop, we have 6 points of contact. Hand, both knees, and both foot, right? As long as you start lifting the knees away, you start to activate your bicep femoris and your hip flexor along with the glutes and the core. So the psoas, the iliacs, the periphemoris, everything starts to stay compacted as you have to hold your core. Then you have 4 points of contact. When you walk, you move simultaneously two limbs. So you rise. Sure.
Yeah.
You're raising your left hand and your right foot. Then you're traveling, and then you drop them. So you go from 4 points of contact to 2 points of contact, and on and on and on. And this is how you have to keep your form, your spine straight. Technically, when you walk, I don't know if you notice, but tigers, they walk by protracting the shoulder blades. So this is how we want to work. That's why we call it animal flow somehow, because it looks like.
And are the static poses named after animals, and then the traveling, obviously,
yes,
transgress?
Yes, not all of them. We have beast, crab, and apes. You have also different form. The scorpion, when you actually raise one of the leg up and you bend your knee, it looks like a scorpion tail. In this configuration, you have 3 points of contact with the ground. And the idea, we have this move called on the switch. It's basically when you switch from a form to another by dropping your knees in and by switching your hip. This is what's going to come and articulate the move between form and form. So here's the flow. We start in one form, and then we have to learn the call out. We're usually learning during the class, and we're going to ask you to set your crab, then to activate your crab, then right leg on the switch. So from crab, if you bring your right leg on the switch, we turn into a beast. Then travel forward, then left leg on the switch. Then you have all the variation. And as the variation keep on moving on, we ask you to load your beast, to unload your beast, to go to scorpion reach, full scorpion, bear walk, crocodile barrel. I mean, you have, I don't know, maybe
so
about
much fun.
50.
I'm going to come and try it.
Of course, you're more than welcome. And this is, I think you point something very interesting. It's very fun. It's challenging and very fun. So you ask me what type of profile are coming to the class. It's basically good for different type of profiles. For people who have a very high fitness level, it's going to make them rediscover the biomechanic, how they can engage the muscles to sustain their weights. And also, I'm training some football players, some Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters. Some people have very high level in fitness, CrossFitter, and they're rediscovering also their weight, because it's a different approach to biomechanics. And you see, when you do a lot of sport, you will usually emphasize on building strength on the major group of muscles. But the small supportive muscle, the fascia, the tendons, the ligament are usually a little bit left apart. This because you have to turn like in unless free direction multi-planar, you have to activate those little supportive muscles. So this is, we also do it to do some rehabilitation. If we have some athletes who get some injuries and stuff.
Oh, I'm just putting it down so I can see your face.
Yeah, we'll go to what this
Yes,
is.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited to talk about this.
Yeah, so that's why it's very complete. Let me tell you, as a yoga teacher and as a martial art instructor since more than 10 years now, when I discover animal flow, I kind of rediscover places where I thought I was good with flexibility as a yoga teacher. Actually push your limit a little bit out, because you're pushing your brain and your connection with your body out of the box.
Yeah.
Especially when you travel. Traveling, it's hard. It's very challenging.
How did you get into it? What's your background reason? How did you
Well,
how did you go down this route and not parkour or some other kind of?
Yeah, no, sure. So I'm coming from a business background. I just decided at some point that I wanted to go into a wellness industry to just take care of myself in terms of health. So
when you say business background, were you in the corporate world? Is that what your day job was?
Yes, I'm actually a fashion designer and had my company in Dubai for about 12 years now. So we were distributing clothes, and I started yoga since maybe 4 or 5 years as a practitioner, and I started the Russian martial art called Sistema about 11 years. Yeah. So Sistema, it's very underground. It's now a little bit booming, but we can say it's comparable a little bit to Krav Maga, but with more Russian approach. Okay. It's a discipline, it's very interesting. It's used by the KGB agent to protect themselves, and it's used by the Spetsnaz, so the special Russian forces, like the commando. So I train very regularly in Pskov, in Russia. I'm training with former special forces of the Spetsnaz. My teacher is a KGB like agent, like former KGB agent. So the concept of Systema, it's to use.
Is it a kind of a wrestle, or is it a striking?
Yes, it's a self-defense, so you have to be
Okay.
ready for whatever.
Okay.
It's a hand-to-hand, including also weapon, but we leave the weapon for more like educational way. The idea of Systema, it's a little bit scary, but it's extremely efficient, extremely fast, and you don't need to train for too long. You don't need to modify your body in order to gain strength to be able to strike deeper. You use what you have already as a tool, so your biomechanics. The concepts are resumed in 3 words: structure, breathing, and mobility. So it's typically a biomechanical form of combat. And this is how I came to yoga, paradoxically, because I found, my wife is a yoga teacher, and I found yoga extremely similar to it. So I always have this interest into biomechanics and how we can be a better version of yourself by going back into some very basic workout, but let's see, improving the mobility of the body, improving the strength of the brain, improving the resistance of the mind. So it's very, let's say, a common point that I found in Systema, in yoga, and recently into animal flow.
Yeah.
So animal flow, it's kind of making a union of all this idea of being strong into your mind, because you have to hold the pose. And trust me, when you stay 2 or 3 minutes with your knees away from the ground, you're just craving to drop them. It's like extremely challenging, whatever fitness level you are in. Actually, more you have muscle, more it gets difficult, because you will use a lot of calcium, you will develop a lot of lactic acids, and it will start to cramp faster.
Okay.
So it's all this who brought me to animal flow. I found it randomly. I was always exploring new type of disciplines. I get in touch with like Ido Portal. I don't know if you heard about this, like all the move, remove. This is going to be my next training. And I'm also like interested into still mace. So all type of, not necessarily innovative, because like Systema is quite old. It's from the 10th century, so like it's something old. But the innovative way of using either tool, either your calisthenics or your own body weight to work out, this is really the type of fitness that I'm in. And as a result, animal flow came to me. I didn't went to it, and it just happening. When I was looking for information about it, I just find they had a workshop in Dubai for the first time, like 6 months ago. I signed in, I did the training. Training was quite long, because you have 2 or 3 months to keep on, like, let's say, training your form, repeating the flow, and you have to send your video to have your accreditation. So it's not that easy. I found it pretty challenging, actually. Extremely precise. The form are really, you have to stay by the books. One of the whole points of animal flow is to have your own personal challenge into your moves and your flow. But also, it's fun because you connected with the group. And the idea is that at the end of the class, or even during the class, we want to have a common flow together. We can synchronize it, we can desynchronize it, but you now not just responsible of yourself during your practice, but you're responsible of the flow. If everyone look to the left, when you look to the right, you have to start again. So that create bond between all the class.
Well, when I've seen it on Instagram, it's interesting that you referred it to a little bit like a dance, because when I've seen these videos, people are moving in synchronicity, and it's actually quite lovely to watch. And it looks very challenging at the same time. So very, very lovely and synchronized and flowy and moving.
Exactly.
It doesn't look like a staggered.
It looks like dance.
It does, but like a floor-based dance. And I love when people are on all fours and then they
hold,
and they go. And those are the sections that reminded me very much of yoga. When you're doing, like a coyote, or you flip your dog and things like that. They're very, very similar in some respects.
Definitely.
And the hands and the knees thing, which is a very much a yoga thing. You're always on your hands and your knees, or you're flowing from a standing to a.
The move are comparable to yoga. The structure, I would say, is comparable to Pilates. As Pilates, you always keep your core engaged. This is what we do. We never let go the core, otherwise the form drops. It's comparable to capoeira because of the move and the rhythm, and to dance because of the flow. So you have to respect the rhythm. Rhythm, usually your breath. when everyone excel at the same time, they give you an indication on where you are into your flow. So you have to catch up from the breath and then start listening to the instructor calls out, and it's really fun. And the magic with this discipline, I find it because I'm teaching it since maybe a few months now, so it's quite recent. So I'm still exploring as an instructor. And what I found extremely special is that at the beginning of the class, when you have new people who never heard about animal flow, sometimes when they come and they believe we're going to do yoga, so they kind of very surprised, right? So let's say you have 10 students who never heard about it. In 35 or 40 minutes, you bring them together into teaching them and getting them to know 10 to 15 form, and then they are able now to switch one for another, synchronizing with all the other students. If you see the smile of the student at the end of the class and the satisfaction of having something absolutely new coming from scratch, and in like half an hour, 40 minutes, doing something with other people, like a choreography, it's amazing. It's a great feeling. It's a great satisfaction as a teacher when you don't let anyone apart, and despite of the different level fitness, you make everyone look at the same direction, moving at the same flow, being at the same page, and having the same happiness at the end. And so this is what really makes me happy in a personal level. Yeah.
How does it differ from the, I don't know if this is a gym commercial branded animal type thing, but the thing that's the class that's zoo or Sue, where I think what they'll do is they'll like bear crawl up, bear crawl back, alligator walk up, alligator back, and it's a way to sort of condition the person, bring in a low impact cardio, but it's more of a class based exercise class. Get your heart rate up, get people moving. What you're describing seems like something separate, something more like a dance class with a movement that's just, again, low impact. But what am I trying to say? Do you know what this zoo? Did you know? Have you heard of that zoo class? So how would those two differ? Because from knowing nothing about either of them, I'll kind of like personally, I would maybe flip to Instagram, see it, and think, oh, I've seen this before. This is that class.
Okay, I would say it's pretty similar, except that animal flow, I would say is the most advanced and the most complete set of workouts. So the dance or the illusion of dance is a part of it, but it's still a fitness workout. Yeah. You can isolate two forms and repeat them, like when you load your beast, which is like similar to what you said, and then you unload it. If you repeat it for like 10, 15 times, it's become a definitely workout similar to shoulder press and push-ups. So it's free. You can have different approach. You can use it as a pure fitness tool. You can use it at like something more fun to bring the people having a good time together. I think, you see, at the end of the day, everything is movement. You see? And we cannot move to 1,000 different ways. So it's just the protocol that you use to first make sure that this movement comes together, and how you can make sure that people will understand it and be able to repeat. So I would say it's in terms of a protocol and the use that you make. But basically, all the what they call now the primal or the primary workouts are basically the same. Now, see, marketing speaking, now there's a new market for that. Pretty much all the fitness brand, or maybe newcomer in the market will start to name it different. Maybe zoo, maybe animal, maybe you see whatever. At the end of the day, it's almost the same thing. I would say the same benefit. I choose animal flow because it's really complete and it has a different level of progression. I'm level 1, certified instructor. Level 2, it's another set of move. You can be master instructor with almost like level 3 different type of thing.
So how would they differ? How would you upskill yourself and what would you learn?
On the progression, you start going. You actually start reducing the point of contact with the floor, heading to handstand. So the ape that you do in level 1, it's a regular traveling ape when you stay a very small amount of time on your hands, because your foot will have to jump and travel. When you start get to know your strengths and your balance, then you gonna levitate. you're going to jump to ape, and you're going to levitate to ape. So you're going to stay in handstands with your knees against your chest, which is one of the most challenging form of handstand, for some time. So as you evolve, you can also work on the speed of the move and on the quality of the form, the discipline of your move. You see, when you start having master instructor training together, having the same pace, it reminds me like Japanese or Chinese army, when everyone in one breath look to the left, look to the right, then they move. So can you imagine that in a very speed way? It's extremely beautiful to watch, and it's really challenging because you have to hold your breath, so you start engaging your diaphragm in a deeper way. So I would say pretty much this is how you evolve. You can increase the speed, you can change the move, and you can start going from a form to another form with not natural connection. You see, maybe if you want to go from crab to beast, you go to the under switch. Now you can use the jumping on the switch or the levitate on the switch. So you can stand on the handstand for a few seconds, then drop straight into crab and go back to one of the evolution of the crab.
This is one of the things that happens in yoga. As you start to progress, you start to transition almost at first it's like a jump, and then it's like you levitate into one pose and into the next, and it all starts to come together in that way, in a very fluid way, but can also be very, very challenging.
Exactly, yeah. This is, see, one of the common points in terms of the evolution. I would say the difference with yoga, and I can see it from inside, both, it has to do with functionality. Yoga, when you practice your asana, when you practice your flow, either you do Iyengar or Ashtanga or Hatha, you don't have functionality behind the asana. You have to copy a form. Let's say you're in warrior. The best you can do is hold the warrior for longer, having a better alignment, which is extremely challenging. If you stay in warrior for 2 minutes, your arm will literally drop because you have to start engaging your breath as your muscle wants to stand the weight of your bones anymore. It's very challenging, but it doesn't bring functionality. Animal flow, it brings a meaning behind the workout. So when you walk, you're going to start to engage the muscles because you need those muscles to move yourself forward. It put a function behind the workout. I have an example. I have a lot of students, they're doing a lot of bodybuilding, like gym, let's say. They lift a lot of weight and stuff. If anything happened to them and they have for some reason to stop the gym for 2 or 3 weeks, they usually lose a lot of mass. It's very hard to maintain because the brain has no purpose to keeping this amount of connective tissue, active connective tissue, who's gonna eat a lot of calcium, a lot of protein for not reason. You see? In animal flow, any muscle that you will start to build, you will keep it because the brain understands that you're developing this muscle for a reason. The reason can be to travel or to move on the side or to switch or turn yourself into. So muscle are usually a little bit different than regular workout, and usually keep it.
So what kind of physiological changes would you find as a participant in a class? Obviously you'll improve your ability to do the movements. But will you see somebody kind of lose weight? Will you see somebody gain muscle? Will you see people's reduction in pain?
That's a very interesting question because now, since I'm teaching this couple of months, I can see the results on people who keep on coming. What I would say at this point, I can observe, and I have actually a feeling that this type of workout, will actually optimize your body in such a way that it will make you lose the fat that you don't need, that is not required during the flow. Because you need to lighten your body physiologically to be able to jump easier, for example.
Sure.
You will reinforce your joint, especially the wrist. Wrist mobility, ankle mobility is very important. Toes mobility, so it will prevent your body from getting into injuries. It will definitely build a lot of muscle, but once again, healthy and functional muscle, not necessarily in terms of volume, even I believe so. If you see the founder, he's very
lean.
He's very lean. He's very strong.
What's the founder's name?
Mike Fitch.
Oh, Mike Fitch. You said earlier.
And my master instructor, Sasha, he looks very fit. And what is amazing, it's like when his muscles are not too much activated, they look very relaxed and healthy. As soon as he starts engaging, you see the triceps multiplying his size by at least 2 or 3, and you can really feel that the metabolism is really in control, and the release of calcium goes strategically to the muscle that you need to engage. So yes, you lose weight. So I mean, you lose the weight that you need to lose. Yes, you build muscle. And you can also modify the flow and have a time of your own practice or private class to emphasize on what type of body you would like to get. If you want to reinforce your chest, you have to do more of this. If you want to reinforce your core, you do the side kick through. In Beast, it's very complete.
So
The
just
jumping
describe what
and
Beast is. Just kind of, if you
Beasts,
can verbally.
it's
4-point
an
kneeling,
elevated- yes.
yeah, with your knees elevated. So say
Exactly.
like a tabletop, 4 points,
With
hands
knees
on
up.
the floor, knees on the floor. Sorry,
So
you're the pro and I'm talking
Yeah,
about
that's
No,
perfect.
no.
That's good.
So like,
Get it.
so you're kneeling, you got your toes and your knees and your hands on the floor, and then you lift your knees just off
Correct.
all the way up, or just
No, 1 or 2 inches.
okay. So you're in
Actually,
that
you have to
90
stay.
degree
Yeah.
position. Sure.
Actually,
the
not 90 degrees.
switch-
That's the thing. Just because this is like
Yeah.
like very important in terms of biomechanics. You see, the tabletop you square. You have a 90 degree from knee, hip, shoulder, and palms. Right. In animal flow, we want to bring the knees a little bit closer to the belly button, almost halfway between chest
Okay.
and pelvic floor. When we rise the knees, the angle is more like 70 degree, and we just want to rise it high enough to just like pass a hands just under the knee. Lower you are from the knee, harder it gets. When you start to get tired, you can see all the students, they start lifting the hips up and releasing the pressure on the biceps femoris. If you really want to keep your structure, you have to be as low as possible. And
It's
this
like-
is very challenging.
You know when you see people do plank on their forearms and they get tired and they lift
Yeah.
their
Yes,
hips up?
exactly.
It's like that,
Exactly,
right?
yes.
So then when you were referring to the switch, you mean taking one leg and taking it across the beast, right?
Yes.
That was
Let's say
the
you
core
are in
work.
beast, yeah, and if you want to right leg on the switch, the left hip will open, the right hip will fall. So your right knee will fall under, and you will move your left hand, and you're gonna come to crab. Crab is like when you're sitting with your both knee next to you, and you're lifting your hips away from the ground. So once again, you are only on your foot and on your hands. It's extremely precise. When you travel in crab, when you travel forward, you have to, so always with the same like principle of activating the contralateral limb. So you want to lift the right foot and the left hand together and drop them to the floor together. The contact with the floor will be different. If you travel forward, you want to start with your right heel and then push with your toes to push yourself forward. So with the finger will start drop first and then your palm. If you move back, then you have to drop your toes first and move your heel last to push yourself. So you have to start now with your palms and then open your fingers. So for the flexibility of the fingers, it's very, very challenging. So you can feel more control you have, less tension you will develop, and more the body will be able to move freely with less pain.
So sorry to
Right. Yeah, no
digress a
problem.
little bit, but I'm curious as to what this is. Can you explain?
Yes, of course.
Explain to us what this is. So
So-
I'm just
so,
going to put this down and I'm going to show people.
So, and we'll just describe it for people listening, because there's the
Yes.
audio version of this.
Let me help you. Yes, this is spray.
You brought with you a long mace with a big, heavy,
long,
head,
heavy mace. Yeah.
piece of metal carved in. Is that an Inca face?
Yes, exactly. This is an original piece of art from Alex Gray, a very famous American artist, who did a collaboration with Onit, which is the manufacturer of this piece, right?
On it in the US.
I believe it represents Maya or Inca divinity.
yeah.
So it's called the quad mace because it has 4 faces.
Is it a meter long?
Sorry?
How is it about a meter high off the floor there?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I
a
think
little bit
easily.
more, about a
Maybe
meter
maybe
30.
1 meter 30,
Waist high
20.
anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, waist high, even a little bit higher. It was. I mean, the weight is 25 pounds for the head. And yeah, so the question, what is that? I'm carrying this every day now because it's a part of my new training, which called a steer or a steel mace. It's once again, it's biomechanical training who wants to use the tools that our grandfather and grandfather were using on everyday basis when they were building a house
Hard
and stuff.
labor guys, yeah.
Exactly. So we return to using. It's a little bit like, see, when you train, you do the farmer walk, right? So you want to copy what the farmer condition was to carry
Yeah.
all this bag. This is the same thing. So you want to use a big long stick, which is a mace. So back in the day, they were fighting with the mace, or they were using the mace to build stuff. So we use it to develop strengths, and most particularly to develop the strength of the wrist. Because if you curve with this stick, let's say you hold the shaft on your left hand and the mass part on your right hand, and you want to curve your biceps.
Yeah.
The weight of the mass would be on the outside part of your wrist. So your wrist has to be extremely stable.
Yeah, we tried it before the
Yeah.
podcast, and
It's heavy.
Holding it down by my side, trying to do a bicep curl, I barely got it, maybe 20 degrees, and then it just decided my wrist just didn't have the strength to stay in that neutral position, because all that weight is just on the thumb,
Correct.
on the outside. Because what we're looking at, for people who are listening again, is the weight's all at one end. 25-pound piece of metal at the end of a meter long stick.
I don't think this is it metal? Oh yeah,
Yes,
it is.
It's heavy metal, yeah.
Wow.
And this is a Cooper seal on the top.
Oh,
so it's a
that's-
beautiful piece of
It's really
art.
beautiful. It
Exactly.
looks so ancient.
It looks
look
ancient,
and it's
yeah.
beautiful.
It's surprising. It's much more heavy than I was expecting to lift on. So you can start imagining now, kind of rotating around, spinning that around your body.
Exactly.
This is separate to animal flow. This is
This
your
is
own
separate to
personal
animal
training.
flow. Exactly. This is going to be my next, hopefully, certification. I'm preparing for become a certified steel mace,
Okay.
and this is a part of my training. So this is a pretty
do
heavy
you,
weight.
do you
Yes, not
move
this
it-
way.
It's semi-dancey-ish,
Yes,
right?
not dancing. You want to have what they call 360 switch, when you hold the mace and then you have to like, how I call it in English,
Yeah,
when
you
you
bring it around
swing,
yeah,
you
bring it
swing
around the
it
back of your head, yeah.
exactly behind and then bring it back. I'm not at the level that I can do
But
it
this
with
is
this
heavy.
yet, because this is very heavy.
Well, yeah, we spoke. There's lighter versions.
Definitely.
So this obviously and this is the heaviest so far.
I believe, yeah, this is the heaviest for this brand. For like on it, I think they have a set starting at maybe 3 pound or 5 pound, and then
Sure.
goes to like 10, 15. I start with a classic hammer that I went to Elco's to get, pretty heavy one,
Yeah.
8
That's
pound.
essentially what it is, isn't it? It's like a hammer with all the weights at one
Exactly,
end, like a
yeah,
sledgehammer.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a hammer. And once again, why I'm interested into that, because it has a common point about this functionality, functional workout. Once again, the muscle and the brain are connected to have a functionality. So you will develop strengths because you're going to use your strength to do something, not
Yeah.
just lifting dumbbell for months and months and months. And if you change the angle from like 5 degree, your wrist completely collapse and
Yeah.
fall. This is extremely powerful.
So at the moment, you're walking around
Do you
with
wanna
this
lay it down?
and taking it everywhere
Down
as
there, I'll stand up and pick it up.
as a conditioning tool. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah,
So
yeah.
you're conditioning yourself to carry it around.
Be careful. Yeah. Yes, it's definitely like, instead of working out at the gym or doing some CrossFit to develop muscle and strength, I decided to use this as an everyday tool. So every morning I doing curls. I'm training to like rotate it. There is a lot of different. I mean, you can now check on many websites, on YouTube's. If you just look for steel mace
Yeah.
workout, you have a lot of different flow, a lot of different
No,
like
I
version.
think this is fantastic, because people in it, I mean, there was, I can't remember what this story is, but they started to realize that farmers were getting a certain amount of less injuries
Mhm.
than other people, even though they would lift more weights, and they're not out in the farm. I've no idea what the real background is, but out in the farms, they're not worried about technique. They're not keeping their back straight. They're not dipping from the hips. They're just picking up the hay bale and they're throwing it. They're just digging the hole and they're throwing it. They're twisting, they're turning, and they realized that it was because of all the rotations that they were doing and of the unilateral work. So if you imagine that head, the weighted part is like the end of a shovel full of the dirt.
Yeah, or split. And
It's
then
that
you want to
swing.
take it.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
that
We actually
swing.
have this move. This is one of
Yeah.
the moves as well. when
It's
you
one of the
hold
most
on
beneficial ones, and this is looking back at the farmers and their injuries. It's one of the most beneficial exercises, because it's stuff that we do all day. Whether we're twisting and turning, putting stuff into the car, taking stuff out of the car, it's twisting with that weight, and not the barbell evenly balanced, or not the dumbbell evenly
Correct.
balanced.
Mhm.
It's that offset of balance, and that's where people who go to the gym, they push forward and back, they pull forward and back, and maybe they do a little bit of sideways stuff. Very rarely do they rotate. So these things, and when they do rotate, they rotate with a nice even balance, and everything's nice. And then you go to your whatever your trade is. If you're an electrician, if you're a builder, everything is much more one-weighted side. So I think there's a big future in these from injury prevention.
I believe so. And because it had a big past as well, as you just explained.
Yeah,
so
it's. Do you know what I like about it? It's quite like it feels like it's got a lot of depth to it. Like it's a very powerful kind of structural piece, which has a lot of depth to it. I was going to ask you, is that anywhere in Dubai?
I don't know. I don't think yet. I do.
Classes.
Yeah, I do it. I have some privates.
I know there's a couple of guys doing a club bell. Club bell is like almost like
shorter,
you see this thing, and it's in that shape.
The cactus.
It's in that shape as well. It's not maybe much taller than that, like a bowling skittle. You know that kind of shape.
Oh, for the junglery, they have this also.
Exactly. The things that jugglers will throw. That's actually heavy, so they got a weight at one end, but it's not this kind of mass. It's not this big.
It's on the same type of workout. Like also, if like on it is doing the same thing. It has this
the club bells.
The club bells. He has there is the mace. So it's the same idea. It's actually using very light. I would say light because you can. I mean, you start with light, of course, and then
surprisingly light as well.
Surprisingly light,
You think I can squat 100 kilos? You take this.
Squatting with this is not easy. It's not easy because you have to make sure that you keep your gravity aligned, and when the weight is pulling on your side, you have to engage your obliques to balance. Yeah. And what is very interesting, you see, I believe because you were talking about death. The depth of this is something very ancient, of very deep. You see, I'd say it is indeed. It was used by the knights. See, into battlefield, the Russian Cossack or the Bagatay, or the I don't know let's say because I'm French. All the European knights they had this or the Vikings. Yeah. Vikings had a little shorter
weapon. A club?
Yeah, because they were able to throw.
Yeah, but they were
knights, they had extremely heavy blades and swords. I don't even think anyone can lift it straight like that. I was traveling to Russia and I've been to like Pskov, which is an old like ancient city, and I've worn almost a full knight
chain link armor.
Exactly, it's incredible. I was even thinking to create a workout out of it because just lifting yourself, you have 25 kilos. When the charge, it's sprayed in every centimeters of your biomechanics, so you have to deal with it. And raising the sword, I could not possibly leave the sword more than 3 or 4 inches away from my chest, because I had to sustain the weight with my deltoids and pec. If I was going just a little bit, I can feel my wrist, everything. And I'm trained. I mean, this is not my first time that I hold a heavy stick, but still, I don't know, maybe 20K, which is twice the weight of this.
Yeah. It kind of goes to show that thinking about the Vikings and thinking about all of
it was so strong.
So strong.
And those people were swinging the sword.
Yeah.
So out of the holder, then in one hand turning around.
Yeah.
I mean, we cannot even lift it.
They would put our society to shame.
I think
we would take a gun out.
Yeah, or technologically, we'd just get onto the internet drone.
I very often have this conversation about the evolution of the humanity. Now we're good with computers, finger.
We're getting all soft and squishy.
Exactly, but we don't because we don't need to. See, the human being just evolve according to the need. Now we have to understand how iPhone work more than how to dig a hole with a spade. Yeah. That's why it's my intention and it's my will to go back into this type of let's say ancient. See, we cannot even call it works out. It became a works out. It was just activity, like farmers' daily life,
of course,
and have a healthy body.
Is your intention to start classes or sessions with this in Dubai?
Definitely, I'm already starting. I'm doing a lot of privates. We include this in Systema. We include this even in some of the flow. This one obviously is very heavy, but doing like animal flow, like movement, with having one hammer on your hand when you move. Okay. You see, I like to put everything together because the objective, if of course, you see, my motto somehow it's to become a better version of yourself, mentally, physically and healthily. You want to connect metabolism, biomechanics, breath, brain control, and anything who can contribute to this goal, I'm in. I like it, especially if doesn't require a lot of investment or equipment.
Yeah.
I love calisthenics because your body weight, it's your pretty much best tool. How many people they can lift an extreme heavy amounts of weight, but they cannot plank for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
They start breaking everything. So what's the point? This is my my understanding. What's the point of having extremely developed, almost inflamed muscle if you cannot, excuse my French, but whip your ass? You see,
Yeah.
if you cannot have the flexibility to turn your hand behind and touch your shoulder blades and bend without having an injury, or lifting anything with your hand without.
And you'll see that in some of the biggest bodybuilders. They can't wash themselves. They can't do certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are certain things that are essential, like, you know, putting on your socks, like for a woman, like being able to get your hands behind your back so you can take your bra off, like things like that. They're important. And when you have,
Definitely.
like, as you were saying, rigidity, it doesn't allow you to live a really easy, comfortable, mobile.
And I also think as well, this kind of thing is attractive to people who don't like the gym. It's too intimidating. They're sick of the gym. They've been working out for years. They just need something new.
Definitely.
A yoga class is not really their thing because of this, because of the idea that people have, the preconception people have about yoga. All these new things is just come along, couple of friends in a small class.
Definitely. Make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, and it's not difficult. So, but what's happening on a neurological level is the body's moving in all these new positions. Shoulders are rotating, hips are rotating, body is twisting.
It's mapping. It's neural mapping.
You're lighting up your brain in all these new ways, new areas. That in itself can give you as much of a post-workout high as running 10K.
Definitely. Can we try something together? Can I
Yeah.
ask you just to bring your arm straight away?
To the side.
God.
Yeah, just see.
Let me go this way. So
Just very
so it's
simple,
on the camera.
but just to feel how we can improve the connection, right? So just try to turn your palm facing the ceiling.
So
Okay,
people
fine.
listening can try and do this in their
Yeah.
cars and in their.
I'll try to
So
explain.
you got our arm out to the side. at a
Yes,
90
and
degree.
now rotate your palms back to the ceiling, but from the other side. So you keep on twisting, now you twist your shoulder completely, right? So now go back to the natural posture when your palm is actually facing the
So thumb
floor.
horizontal, yeah.
Correct. Now do it one more time and look at your elbow. So you turn your palm up, the elbow is facing up, right?
Yeah.
Then you turn and the inside of the elbow is facing the ground, correct? Here's the trick now. Come back to the natural straight posture and you're gonna try to rotate your elbow without rotating your hands. Keeping your hands flat. I let you have a try.
So the hands.
Yeah, my
Yeah?
elbow is up.
Yeah, but keep
Yeah.
rotating it.
Oh.
Down now. No, yes. See? Without
Yeah.
moving your hand.
Yeah, it's
So
kinda
look at
hard.
my elbow.
Yeah. So
See, my hand is flat, and look,
Mhm.
I'm moving my elbow from the side, up
Yeah.
and down, without having
Moving
to
your
compromise
hand.
my wrist.
Yeah.
So what's happening here? I'm turning my wrist and my shoulders on the same rotation.
I think I'm
and
getting a little bit out of breath doing that. That's very
yeah,
hard to
it's
focus.
very
It's basically
challenging.
it's basically like keeping your palm facing to
Okay,
the floor.
like see, if I hold your palm here, okay, now turn your elbow, it's gonna be extremely easy to do. So keep on
Yeah.
rotating, you see?
Yeah.
As soon as I leave your hand,
Yeah.
not too bad, you're doing
This
good,
is a-
you're
this
doing
is-
good.
Well, this is a dissociation exercise.
Exactly.
So from the
You
rehab
want
world,
to exactly.
we're
You want to
dissociating.
engage wrist and
Yeah.
shoulder together and have a
Tired.
counter
Yeah.
rotation from there.
Well,
so this is
that's something that we do a lot in Pilates. So in Pilates, there's a lot of disassociating,
Yeah.
learning to
It's so
move
important.
one
exactly,
part
exactly.
and keep the other part really still and stable.
This has to do with the brain control.
Yeah.
You need to look for a way to move two joints in the same way and reconnect with the missing joint to be able to control. So this is one of the gain that you have if you do Systema. For example, if you do Animal Flow, any type of workout will start make you discover your body to the endless possibility. I really believe into energy and into vibration. I believe our cells can do amazing stuff. I believe we're not using our body and maybe our brain to not even 10-50% of what they actually can do. Traveling to India, having seen different type of yogis and gurus. Also in Russia, they have some very old monk. They do amazing stuff.
And those gymnasts, man, the Russian
Gymnasts
gymnasts.
as well, yeah, this has
my
to do with training
God.
and discipline. Yeah,
And it's the Russian gymnasts. They're crazy. Like, I've seen some videos of some Russian gymnasts, and it's like, do you have a spine? Is there bones in your body? It's crazy. So yeah, I really do believe that when people train themselves and train their bodies and practice something, the extent that you can take the skill is just phenomenal. It's the human body is really a phenomenal. Like,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
And more you do, more you understand that you
Exactly,
don't know
exactly.
anything, and you've been using your body
Yeah.
probably wrong for the last 30, 40 years.
yeah, and really what it's capable of doing, and
Yeah.
how much people can push themselves when they
that's it.
really try.
I mean, yeah, it's not really about using your body wrong. It's just not understanding how much more options you have. So you because you go to the gym, and the gyms that people like to join are the ones where they, as soon as they step in the door, they see the machines that they're used to. They see the machines that they know. They push, they pull, they push.
And
they
it's a
do
very
this.
one-dimensional movement.
Yeah, exactly. And they go, okay, this is me. There's a year's membership, and that's a year of their life committed to this thing, pushing out, pushing up.
Yeah, and most of the time it's bilateral, and
Yeah.
it's very like
Which
over
is
one
great
joint.
if that person is like coming from sedentary to activity, because anything is good.
Of course.
But then after 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, if they don't know that there's these kind of things, if the gym doesn't have a multiple option of services, they're going to get fed up of that A and B movement that just push, pull. Chances are they'll go home and just sit on the couch, or they'll try running, or they'll try something else that it's all very used
Then they
to.
get depressed because
Yeah.
now gym looks like something I don't want to go.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
boring, and it's beyond the brain.
One-dimensional.
It's actually beyond the feeling, because even the muscles, by doing the repetition, you get physically exhausted.
Yeah.
See, I would say the brain of the muscles, all the connective like tissue, once again, won't understand why they have to do it.
Yeah.
It has no objective. See, gaining weight, gaining muscle, it's not an objective itself. It's maybe a mean to do something. If you gain muscle, it's to be stronger.
Yeah.
So what is to be stronger? Holding yourself in plank for 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes. Okay, you're definitely strong, right? If you just focus on the volume and the look of the muscle get inflamed, and the brain starts to be very depressed in a very deep manner. I have some people, they're coming, see, like after years of like practice, and they're not happy.
Yeah.
They're not happy. So the body is not happy, and they start developing cramp and acidity. And
Well, I think, see, this is what's interesting is I feel like the human body and the brain and the being itself needs to evolve.
Yeah.
And so at some stage we all need to learn new things, and we all need to evolve and progress. And that's what's lovely about things like animal flow and things like the spear thing, is that it gives, sorry, I don't know if I called it the right thing, but yes, the mace. It
Steel
gives,
mace, yeah,
it
it's
gives
fine.
people the opportunity to really explore their bodies and explore fitness and explore what their bodies can really do and what they're capable of. And that's so lovely, because if someone's been practicing yoga for 5 years, it's like, okay, well, now I can do yoga on automatic pilot. So I need to learn something new to continue to feel invigorated and to continue to feel alive and continue to feel like I'm moving in a direction. And I feel like that in itself is also like happy brain chemicals, and gets and assists
Hormones.
people in
dopamine, everything.
in not falling into maybe some slumps that
Some boring
can
stuff.
happen.
Yeah, and I think
Definitely,
that
definitely.
comes back to what I was trying to say about people don't understand how many more options they have, because they're just not exposing themselves to this. You know, so it's good that this is where I think social media actually has a massive positive
Impact,
as much as it has all of its negatives, which people like to talk about. There's a big positive there, because you're seeing new things. You're seeing what's possible.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so I guess to wrap it up, in saying that people can actually come and try these things without feeling intimidated. So maybe where can people come and try your classes, your animal flow classes?
I have different classes. So the animal flow, so far I have 3 or 4 classes a week in the studio called Karma Yoga in Marina Mall. I mean, next to Marina Mall, on the tower next to it, at the platform in Marina.
Yeah.
And urban yoga in Business Bay. So I'm trying to have
Yeah, you're spread out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Different
And
location to the kind of offering too.
Just what's unique about this, and what I wanted to say before, is that there's only about 4 people you mentioned in Dubai that are teaching animal flow.
I would say certified. Yeah, I think we're not that
Certified.
much.
Yeah.
I'm not sure honestly, but yeah, I would say it's. I know for sure only 2 certified.
Mhm.
I don't know about the other, but I think we're definitely less than 10.
Okay.
Definitely, I've seen it pretty much in all the Middle East. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much.
So that's what's something that's really unique about that. So if people wanted to find you for private sessions or to come and try your classes, where would they connect with you on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. I think it's you were talking about new technologies. Yeah, definitely. This is the easiest way now to get in
What's your
touch with
Instagram
someone.
handle?
Oh, my Instagram is Allaoua, so ALLAOUA Yoga Sistema.
Okay.
And from here, I regularly post some video of animal flow, my personal practice, and also the class, so people can see the atmosphere of the class, the type of flow that we do. Also post some yoga and some systema stuff. And so for all the private, you have all my information
Amazing.
on
I'm going to
Instagram.
come and try one of your classes and
Please,
hopefully,
and also
put
come
it.
and try yoga class. I have a different approach.
Mhm.
You see, the good thing is like mixing up all this new functionality. Even my yoga practice become different. And you were talking about some people who practice yoga for 10 years. They put their brain and body in autopilot and they go into the same flow. It doesn't happen in my class. I make sure that I take them out of the comfort zone. Even small detail can change everything. And then they rediscover that they can learn more and they can explore more. Not thanks to me, but thanks to their own practice.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's really
awesome.
special. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming
Thank you
along
for having
today.
me.
We
It was a
appreciate it
great
a lot.
time.
And bye, guys.
Bye. See you.